Meantime, there's this. Another Fox News alert. In just a few hours, the House will start voting on a bill to repeal the health care overhaul law, President Obama's signature legislative accomplishment. Just this morning, the Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, weighed in with a dire warning on this vote, predicting that repealing this law will be bad for business, bad for the economy, and will endanger our fragile economic recovery. Republican Congressman Ron Paul of Texas joins me live on that. Congressman, thank you so much for being back on the program. So it's not, the first time we've heard from administration officials saying repeal is a bad idea, but Tim Geithner basically saying our economic recovery depends on leaving this law in place. And your response is what?
Well, I would say that he has the opposite interpretation of all the Republicans, of course, and the opposite interpretation of the people, because that's more or less why the election had such dramatic changes. It's because the people were upset with this. So they're going through this vote. Nobody expects this to make it to the president's desk and everything be repealed. But to say that it would destroy the economy, boy, that's an exaggeration. There's pretty good evidence that this is going to be devastating to the economy and devastating to the delivery of health care in this country. So I don't know where he's coming from.
The Democrats keep pointing to the CBO estimate, Congressional Budget Office, which is nonpartisan, and that says that this is actually, that the health care law as is will reduce the deficit, and if you repeal it, it's going to add to the deficit.
Yeah, but they count taxes differently than I do. If they raise a lot of taxes, then they think that helps. But I wouldn't put any money on those estimates. I mean, you've seen that on prescription drug programs and Medicare and Medicaid. They've always been off by hundreds of %. So their projections and congressional projections on how much this is going to cost and say the idea that everybody's going to get free health care basically, and nobody's going to be turned down, and we're going to lower the deficit. I don't think anybody really believes that.
Now you've had some top Democrats come out today and say, look, it's kind of the opposite message of the one that we were hearing while they were debating this health care bill. You had Republicans at that time coming out and saying, focus on jobs, not on health care. And now, listen to the message that Democrats are offering today. Take a listen.
Congress should be addressing jobs.
This election was about jobs. It was about creating jobs, turning the economy around, getting people back to work, not satisfying a vanity.
And that latter Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz of Florida saying, you guys have your eye on the wrong thing. You should be focused on the economy, not health care.
Well, I don't know how you can separate the two when you look at what part of the GDP that medical care involves. So it is true, jobs are very, very important, but medical care is related. But I would say if you're looking to jobs, you want to know why there are recessions. If you want to know why there are recessions, you have to know why there are bubbles. If you want to know why there's bubbles, you have to look at monetary policy. So that's what you have to look at if you care about jobs. This idea that you can create bubbles, the Federal Reserve creates the bubbles, and then there's a collapse, and then there's a recession and loss of jobs, and say, oh, it's because we're going to do this medical program and it's not even been imposed yet, and then decide how many jobs it's going to cause or not. I think that's just political distraction is what you're listening to.
Meantime, you've got the White House press secretary, Robert Gibbs, coming out and saying this is not a serious effort by you to repeal this health care law, and basically, brushing it off like there those Republicans go again. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's not a serious legislative proposal, but it's very serious what the Republicans are doing, because this was the issue. This is why the Republicans won, and this is a message to say that this is what we should have done. And yes, but we have voted on many things in the House and in the Senate at different times, and it never becomes law. But it also has an impact for the future. To me, this means that we will get rid of those needs for those 1099s, and that maybe this will lead to get rid of the mandate. As bad as all these government programs are, I always look for this option for the American citizen to opt out. If we are going to be coerced, let's hope we just keep up a little hope for the people who would like to take care of themselves. So I would say this is a big step in the direction of saying that we may still get a chance to opt out of this program and assume responsibility for ourselves, and a lot of Americans would like that.
What do you make of the fact that Harry Reid now over in the Senate, if you pass this in the House, Harry Reid in the Senate is saying he's not even going to let it come to a vote on the floor of the Senate. He doesn't think that the votes are there to repeal it, but he doesn't want to find out.
Yeah, I would say that he's chicken. he might not, you know, if he's going to lose the vote, you know, and make his point, you'd think he'd want to do it. But he's a little bit nervous, I think, because if they bring it up and it would happen to pass, then it would be laid on the president's desk, and he wouldn't like that. But if he wanted to really embarrass the Republicans, he'd bring it up and, you know, beat it down by a large majority. But he's not doing that. He's going to just say, well, the votes aren't there. I'm not going to bring it up at all.
Yeah, he's content to let it languish. Congressman Ron Paul, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All the best.